The Westfield presentation was a massive success. Alexander had called Maya into the conference room afterward, along with Rebecca and the rest of the team, and thanked everyone for their work. His eyes had met Maya's for just a moment, a silent acknowledgement of their all-night effort, before he moved on to discussing the next project. Professional, appropriate, exactly as it should be. So why did Maya feel disappointed? 2 days later, things started to get weird. Maya arrived at work to find a beautifully wrapped box on her desk. Inside was an expensive coffee maker, the kind she'd once mentioned to Rebecca that she wished she could afford. There was no card, no name, but somehow she knew it was from Alexander. She marched straight to his office, knocked once, and walked in. He was on a phone call, but gestured for her to wait. When he hung up, she placed the box on his desk. "I can't accept this," she said firmly. Alexander looked at the box, then at her. "It's just a coffee maker, Maya. It's a $300 coffee maker. That's not just anything. People already talk about me getting special treatment. This will only make it worse." He leaned back in his chair, studying her. "You worked all night to save that presentation. I wanted to show my appreciation. Then give everyone on the team a bonus or send a company-wide email. Don't give me personal gifts, please." Maya softened her tone. "I appreciate the thought, I really do. But I need to earn my place here on my own merit. Gifts like this undermine that." Something flickered across his face, frustration maybe, or understanding. "You're right. I apologize. I wasn't thinking about how it would look." Maya nodded and turned to leave, but his voice stopped her. "Maya?" She looked back. "For what it's worth, I think you've more than earned your place here." The sincerity in his voice made her chest tight. She managed a small smile and left before she could say something she'd regret. That afternoon, Victoria called Maya into her office. The CFO's space was immaculate, all glass and chrome with abstract art on the walls. Victoria sat behind her desk like a queen on a throne, perfectly manicured nails tapping on the surface. "Maya, thank you for coming. Please sit." Victoria's smile was warm, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I wanted to touch base with you about your progress here. How are you finding everything?" Maya sat carefully. "It's been great. Challenging, but I'm learning a lot." "I'm glad to hear that. I understand you worked on the Westfield presentation." "Quite the success," Victoria paused. "I also understand you worked quite late with Alexander to complete it." There was something in the way she said Alexander's name, something possessive. Maya kept her expression neutral. "Mr. Henderson was kind enough to help when he saw I was still here. The project was time-sensitive, of course. Alexander is very hands-on with his team. It's one of the things I admire about him." Victoria leaned forward slightly. "We've worked together for 6 years, you know. I probably know him better than anyone else in this building." Maya wasn't sure what to say to that, so she just nodded. "I just want to give you some friendly advice, woman to woman." Victoria's voice dropped to something more intimate, conspiratorial. "Alexander is a very kind man. Sometimes too kind. He has a tendency to want to help people, especially those he perceives as needing it. But he's also the CEO of a major corporation. His attention, his time, these things have value, and they can be easily misinterpreted." Maya felt heat rise in her face. "I'm not sure what you're implying." "I'm not implying anything," Victoria said smoothly. "I'm simply saying that as someone who's been here much longer, I've seen situations like this before. New employee, grateful for the opportunity, develops a bit of a crush on the boss. It's natural. But it can also be very damaging to a career, especially when that employee has a child to think about." The mention of Lily felt like a threat, even though Victoria was still smiling. Maya stood up. "Thank you for the advice, Ms. Chambers, but I'm here to work, nothing more. My relationship with Mr. Henderson is purely professional." "I'm glad to hear it. I'd hate to see you lose this opportunity over a misunderstanding." Victoria's smile widened. "You're dismissed." Maya left the office feeling like she'd just been put in her place. And maybe she had. Victoria was right about one thing. Maya had developed feelings for Alexander. Feelings that could jeopardize everything she'd worked for. For the next week, Maya threw herself into work and avoided Alexander as much as possible. She arrived early, stayed late, and made sure she was never alone with him. If he noticed the change, he didn't mention it. Then one Thursday afternoon, everything fell apart. Maya's phone rang. It was Lily's school. Her daughter had fallen on the playground and hit her head. They thought she might need stitches. Could Maya come immediately? Her hands shook as she grabbed her purse. She ran to Rebecca's desk to explain, but Rebecca was in a meeting. Tyler looked up from his computer as Maya rushed past. Where are you going? We have that budget review in 10 minutes. My daughter, emergency, I have to go. She didn't wait for a response. She was halfway to the elevator when she heard Alexander's voice. Maya, wait. She turned. He was jogging toward her, concern written all over his face. What happened? Lily fell. Hit her head. They said she might need stitches and I don't have a car and the bus will take forever and I need to get to her. Maya could hear the panic in her own voice. Come on. Alexander grabbed her arm gently and steered her toward the elevator. I'll drive you. You don't have to do that. You have meetings. They can wait. Your daughter can't. His tone left no room for argument. The elevator ride down felt endless. Maya's mind raced with worst-case scenarios. What if it was serious? What if Lily was scared and crying for her? What kind of mother was she, stuck at work while her baby was hurt? Alexander's hand found hers and squeezed. She'll be okay. Kids are resilient. Maya held onto his hand like a lifeline. The drive to the school took 15 minutes that felt like hours. Alexander drove fast but safely, and Maya appreciated that he didn't try to make small talk or tell her everything would be fine. He just got her there. They rushed into the school office where Lily was sitting on a chair holding an ice pack to her forehead. When she saw Maya, she burst into tears. Mommy! Maya dropped to her knees and pulled Lily into her arms, careful of her head. I'm here, baby. I'm here. Let me see. The cut wasn't as bad as she'd feared. Deep enough to need attention, but not terrifying. The school nurse explained that they'd called an ambulance just to be safe, but it should arrive any minute. Lily looked past Maya and her eyes widened. Mommy, who's that? Maya had almost forgotten Alexander was there. He was standing a respectful distance away, giving them space but ready to help if needed. This is Mr. Henderson. He works with Mommy. He drove us here. Alexander stepped forward and crouched down to Lily's level. Hi there. That's quite a bump you got. You must be very brave, Lily sniffled. It hurt a lot. I bet it did. You know what, though? I fell off the monkey bars when I was about your age and needed 3 stitches. And now I have a cool scar to show for it. Want to see? Lily nodded, momentarily distracted from her pain. Alexander pushed up his sleeve to show a small scar on his forearm. See? Battle scar. Makes me look tough. He winked at her, and despite everything, Lily giggled. Maya watched the interaction, something warm and painful blooming in her chest. This man, this CEO who had meetings and responsibilities, was sitting on a school office floor making her daughter laugh. The ambulance arrived and the paramedics checked Lily over. They confirmed she needed a few stitches, but nothing more serious. Alexander offered to drive them to the hospital, and Maya was too grateful and too overwhelmed to refuse. At the emergency room, Alexander sat with them through the long wait. He bought Lily a stuffed bear from the gift shop and convinced her that getting stitches would make her the coolest kid in kindergarten. He made Maya laugh when she was on the verge of tears, and he never once checked his phone or acted like he had somewhere better to be. 4 stitches later, Lily was sporting a small bandage and clutching her new bear. Maya carried her out to the car, exhausted but relieved. As Alexander drove them home, Lily fell asleep in the back seat. Maya looked at him in the fading afternoon light. Thank you, she said softly, for everything. You didn't have to do any of this. Yes, I did, he said, echoing his words from that late night in the office. Maya, can I ask you something? Sure. Why have you been avoiding me all week? Maya's breath caught. She'd hoped he hadn't noticed. I haven't been avoiding you. Maya. She looked down at her hands. Victoria had a talk with me about professional boundaries, about how your attention could be misinterpreted. She paused. She wasn't wrong. Alexander's jaw tightened. What exactly did Victoria say to you? It doesn't matter. She was trying to protect me. And you. People talk, Alexander. They see us together and they make assumptions. I can't afford those assumptions, and neither can you. He pulled up in front of her apartment building and put the car in park. Then he turned to face her fully. And what if those assumptions are right? Maya's heart stopped. What? What if I'm not just being kind? What if I think about you when I shouldn't? What if every time I see you at your desk I have to remind myself that you work for me, and I can't cross that line? His voice was low, intense. What if I've been looking for excuses to spend time with you since that morning in the car? Maya couldn't breathe. Alexander, we can't. I know. Believe me, I know. You work for me. It's completely inappropriate. And you've made it clear you need to earn your place on your own merit. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. But sitting in that hospital today, watching you with Lily, I realized something. I don't want to just be your boss, Maya, and that's a problem. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of his confession hanging between them. Maya's mind raced. She should say this was impossible. She should thank him for the ride and get out of the car. She should protect her job, her daughter's future, everything she'd worked for. Instead, she heard herself whisper, "It's a problem for me too." Alexander looked at her, and the expression on his face was a mix of relief and anguish. "So what do we do?" Before Maya could answer, Lily stirred in the back seat, mumbling in her sleep. The moment broke. Reality crashed back in. "I should get her inside," Maya said, her voice shaky. Alexander nodded. "Maya, we need to talk about this. Really talk, I know. Just not now. Not today." She opened the door and carefully gathered Lily from the back seat. Alexander got out and helped her, his hand steadying her elbow as she adjusted Lily's weight. "Take tomorrow off. Be with her." "That's an order from your boss." Maya managed a weak smile. "Okay." She carried Lily inside, and only when she was safely in her apartment with the door closed did she let herself process what had just happened. Alexander Henderson had feelings for her. Real feelings. And she'd admitted she felt the same way. This should have felt like a dream come true. Instead, it felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, knowing that one wrong step could send everything crashing down. 3 weeks had passed since Maya's first day at Henderson Global, and she'd fallen into a rhythm that left her exhausted but satisfied. Every morning she dropped Lily off at kindergarten, took the bus downtown, and threw herself into her work with an intensity that surprised even her. She was determined to prove she belonged there, and slowly, painfully slowly, she felt like she was making progress. Rebecca had warmed up to her, just a little. The older woman still pushed her hard, but now there were occasional nods of approval, small comments like "good catch" or "I wouldn't have thought of that." It wasn't much, but to Maya it felt like winning an Olympic medal. The other assistants were a mixed bag. Some, like Tyler, remained suspicious and kept their distance. Others had started including her in lunch conversations and coffee runs. Maya took what she could get and focused on the work. Alexander, she'd learned to call him Mr. Henderson in public, and only used his first name in the rare moments they were alone. He treated her professionally, never showing favoritism, which she appreciated even as a tiny, unreasonable part of her wished for more of that warmth from their first morning together. And then there was Victoria. The CFO had a way of appearing whenever Maya was near Alexander. She'd sweep in with some urgent matter that couldn't wait, her hand finding reasons to touch his arm, his shoulder, his back. She was always impeccably professional, always smiling, but there was something in her eyes when she looked at Maya that made her skin crawl. It was a Wednesday afternoon when everything started to shift. Maya was at her desk working through a complex scheduling issue for an upcoming board meeting, when Rebecca appeared beside her looking stressed. "Maya, I need your help. The Westfield presentation is tomorrow and half the data analysis is wrong. I just found out that the junior analyst who was supposed to handle it got the numbers mixed up." Rebecca ran a hand through her hair. "Mr. Henderson is going to present this to potential investors worth millions. If these numbers are wrong, we could lose the entire deal." Maya felt her stomach tighten. "What do you need me to do?" "The original data is in these files." Rebecca dropped a thick folder on her desk. "I need you to go through every number, cross-reference it with the source documents, and rebuild the entire analysis section. And I need it done by 8 a.m. tomorrow." Maya looked at the folder, then at the clock. It was already 3 in the afternoon. "That's going to take all night. I know. And I wouldn't ask if I had any other choice. But the other analysts are all in meetings or on other critical projects, and you're the only one I trust to get this right." Rebecca's expression softened slightly. "I know you have your daughter. If you can't do it, I understand. I'll figure something else out." Maya thought about Lily, about the promise she'd made to always be there for bedtime stories. But she also thought about what this opportunity meant, about proving herself. "I can do it. Just give me a few minutes to make a phone call." She called Mrs. Chen, who thankfully agreed to keep Lily overnight. Her neighbor had become a lifeline these past weeks, and Maya made a mental note to find some way to properly thank her. Then she called Lily's kindergarten and arranged for Mrs. Chen to pick her up. The hardest part was calling Lily. Her daughter's little voice came through the phone, excited about her day, and Maya felt her heart crack a little. "Baby, Mommy has to work late tonight. You're going to have a sleepover at Mrs. Chen's house. Won't that be fun? But you promised we'd make cookies tonight," Lily said, and Maya could hear the disappointment. "I know, sweetheart. I'm so sorry. We'll make them this weekend instead, okay? Double batch. With extra chocolate chips." There was a pause and then a small "okay, Mommy." Maya hung up feeling like the worst mother in the world. But she opened the folder and got to work. The hours blurred together. Numbers, spreadsheets, source documents. Cross-referencing, recalculating, double-checking everything. The office gradually emptied until it was just her and the janitor making his rounds. Maya barely noticed. She was in the zone. That state where nothing existed except the problem in front of her and the solution she was building piece by piece. Around 10 p.m., she heard footsteps. She looked up to find Alexander standing there, his tie loosened and jacket off, looking at her with surprise. "Maya, what are you still doing here?" She blinked, pulling herself out of the numbers. "The Westfield presentation. The data analysis had errors. Rebecca asked me to fix it." His expression darkened. "She asked you to fix the entire analysis? By yourself? For tomorrow?" "It's fine," Maya said quickly. "I'm almost done. Another couple hours and I'll have it ready." "Maya, it's 10 o'clock at night. What about Lily?" Something in the fact that he remembered her daughter's name made her chest tighten. "She's staying with my neighbor tonight." Alexander was quiet for a moment, then he pulled up a chair and sat down next to her. "Show me what you've got so far. You don't have to help. I can handle this. I know you can. But this is my presentation, which means it's my responsibility. Show me." So she did. They worked side by side for the next 3 hours. And Maya discovered that Alexander Henderson wasn't just a figurehead CEO. He knew the business inside and out, caught errors she'd missed, suggested better ways to present the data. They fell into an easy rhythm, passing documents back and forth, debating the best approach, occasionally laughing at some particularly ridiculous original mistake. Around 1 in the morning, Maya's stomach growled loudly. She pressed a hand to it, embarrassed, and Alexander laughed. "When did you last eat?" She tried to remember. "Lunch, I think?" "Maybe." He stood up. "Come on, we're taking a break. But we're so close to finishing. And you'll think better with food in your system. Trust me." He led her to the executive break room, which was far nicer than the regular employee kitchen. She'd only been in here once before, briefly. Alexander opened a cabinet and pulled out instant ramen cups and an electric kettle. Maya couldn't help but smile. "The CEO of Henderson Global Industries eats instant ramen." He grinned, and it transformed his whole face, making him look younger, more approachable. "I keep a stash for late nights. Don't tell anyone. It would ruin my image." They sat at the small table, eating their ramen in comfortable silence. Maya realized this was the most relaxed she'd felt in weeks. Here, in the middle of the night with instant noodles, there was no pressure, no office politics, no one watching. "Can I ask you something?" Alexander said after a while. "Sure. Why are you pushing yourself so hard? I mean, beyond the obvious wanting to do well. You're here at 1 in the morning fixing someone else's mistakes, missing time with your daughter. Why?" Maya set down her cup, thinking about how to explain. "Because for most of my life I've been invisible. The struggling single mom, the girl from the bad neighborhood, the one people look at and make assumptions about. This job, this opportunity, it's my chance to be something more, to show Lily that we don't have to stay stuck. That hard work actually means something." She paused, surprised by her own honesty. "I guess I'm terrified that if I'm not perfect, if I don't give everything I have, people will look at me and think they were right about me all along. That I was just a charity case who didn't really belong here." Alexander was quiet for a long moment. "You know that's not true, right? You earned this position. Every day you prove that you deserve to be here. Do you really believe that, or are you just being nice?" He leaned forward, his expression serious. "Maya, I've been running this company for 8 years. I've seen hundreds of employees come and go. You have something most of them never develop. You care, not just about keeping your job or getting promoted, but about actually doing the work right. That's rare. That's valuable." Maya felt heat rise to her cheeks. "Thank you," she said quietly. But he continued, "You also need to learn balance. Burning yourself out won't help anyone, especially not Lily. She needs her mom healthy and present, not exhausted and stretched too thin. The words hit harder than Maya expected. She thought about the disappointment in Lily's voice earlier, about all the missed bedtimes and rushed mornings. You sound like you know what you're talking about. Alexander smiled, but it was tinged with sadness. My mom worked 3 jobs to support me and my sister after my dad left. I barely saw her growing up. She was always working, always tired. I understood why even then, but I also missed her. I used to wish she would just be home for dinner, you know? Just once. That's why you gave me that speech in the car, isn't it? That first morning. Yeah, I saw my mom in you. That same determination, that same fear. I wanted you to know that you'd be okay. They sat there for a moment, the silence comfortable and heavy with understanding. Maya felt something shift between them, something that went beyond boss and employee. Then Alexander's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his expression changed, became more guarded. Maya caught a glimpse of the name on the screen before he turned it away. Victoria. He silenced the phone without reading the message. We should get back to work. Few more hours and we'll have this presentation perfect. Maya nodded, pushing down the curiosity about why Victoria was texting him after 1 a.m. They finished the presentation at 4 a.m. Maya's eyes were burning and her back ached from sitting so long. But the work was solid. Better than solid. It was good. Go home, Alexander said. Get a few hours of sleep. The presentation isn't until 2 p.m. What about you? I'll crash on the couch in my office. I keep a change of clothes here for situations like this. Maya hesitated. Thank you. For helping. You didn't have to. Yes, I did, he said simply. We're a team, Maya, don't forget that. She gathered her things and headed for the elevator. In the lobby, the night security guard looked surprised to see her. As she stepped outside into the pre-dawn darkness, Maya replayed the night in her mind. The easy way they'd worked together, the conversation over ramen, the moment when he'd shared something real about his past. She was in trouble. Not the kind of trouble that came from missing deadlines or making mistakes. This was worse. She was starting to care about Alexander Henderson, not as her boss or her CEO, but as a person, as someone who ate instant ramen at 1 a.m. and remembered her daughter's name and understood what it felt like to watch your parents sacrifice everything, and that, Maya knew, was a complication she absolutely could not afford. Maya stood frozen in Alexander Henderson's office, feeling like her entire world had just been turned upside down. The room was massive, with windows that stretched from floor to ceiling, offering a view of the city that probably cost more than she'd earn in a year. But she couldn't focus on any of that. All she could see was him, standing there in his perfectly tailored suit, looking every bit the powerful CEO he actually was. He gestured to one of the leather chairs in front of his desk. Please, sit down. Maya's legs felt shaky, but she managed to walk over and lower herself into the chair. She clutched her folder of documents like a lifeline. I'm so sorry, she blurted out. I had no idea. I thought you were my Uber driver and I just started talking and I said so many things and I tried to pay you and oh my God. This is so embarrassing. Alexander held up a hand, and there was something almost gentle in his expression. Maya, breathe. You're not in trouble. She took a shaky breath, but her heart was still racing. But I mistook you for an Uber driver. I told you my whole life story. I probably sounded like such a mess. He moved around his desk and leaned against it, his posture relaxed. You sounded like someone who cares deeply about her daughter and is working hard to build a better life. That's not something to be embarrassed about. Why didn't you tell me who you were? The question came out before she could stop it. Alexander was quiet for a moment and something flickered across his face. Honestly? At first I was just amused by the mix-up. But then you started talking and I realized you were being completely genuine. People don't talk to me that way. Not when they know who I am. Everyone becomes careful, calculated. They tell me what they think I want to hear. He paused. You were just yourself. It was refreshing. Maya didn't know what to say to that. She'd expected anger, maybe disappointment. Not this. I meant what I said in the car, Alexander continued. You're going to do well here. The fact that you showed up early despite your nerves, despite juggling childcare and financial stress, that tells me more about your character than any resume ever could. Thank you, Maya said quietly, still not quite believing this conversation was actually happening. He walked back around to his chair and pulled out a file. I've been reviewing the new hire assignments. You were originally placed in the general administrative pool, correct? Maya nodded, wondering where this was going. I'd like to make a change, Alexander said, his tone businesslike now. I need someone on my executive team. Someone who can handle sensitive projects, coordinate between departments, and think on their feet. The position would come with a significant increase in salary and direct exposure to how this company operates at the highest level. Maya felt her stomach drop. You're offering me a position on your executive team? On my first day? When I haven't even started my actual job yet? Yes, why? The word came out sharper than she intended. Alexander met her gaze steadily. Because in 20 minutes of conversation, you showed me more authenticity and determination than most people show in years. Because you're not here to climb a corporate ladder or play politics. You're here because you need this opportunity. And that kind of motivation is invaluable. Maya shook her head slowly. This doesn't make sense. There must be dozens of qualified people already working here who deserve that promotion. People who've put in years of work. What will they think when some random new hire gets promoted before she even starts? For the first time, Alexander smiled, and it transformed his whole face. See? That's exactly the kind of thinking I need. You're already considering the bigger picture, the team dynamics. Most people would have just said yes immediately. I can't accept this, Maya said, even though every practical part of her brain was screaming at her to take the offer. It wouldn't be right. I need to prove myself first. I need to show that I can actually do the work. Alexander leaned back in his chair, studying her. What if we compromise? Start in your assigned position, but I'll have you work on a few projects with the executive team. Consider it a trial period. If you do well and if you feel comfortable, we can make it official in 3 months. Fair? That actually sounded reasonable. More than reasonable. Okay, Maya said slowly. But I have one condition. His eyebrows raised slightly. You're negotiating with me on your first day? You said you valued authenticity, Maya replied, finding a small spark of courage. My condition is that you don't give me special treatment because of what happened this morning. If I mess up, tell me. If my work isn't good enough, let me know. I don't want to be here because you feel sorry for me. Something shifted in Alexander's expression, a mix of respect and something else she couldn't quite identify. Deal, he said, extending his hand across the desk. Maya shook it, and the simple gesture felt like sealing something important. The rest of her first day passed in a blur. Patricia from HR seemed surprised but pleased by the arrangement, and Maya was introduced to the executive assistant she'd be working alongside, a sharp woman in her 40s named Rebecca, who looked her up and down with obvious skepticism. So you're the one everyone's talking about, Rebecca said as she showed Maya to her new desk. Maya's heart sank. They're already talking? Word travels fast around here. New hire called into the CEO's office on day 1. People notice. Rebecca's tone wasn't unkind, just matter of fact. My advice? Keep your head down, do excellent work, and don't give them any ammunition. Ammunition for what? Maya asked, though she had a sinking feeling she already knew. For proving that you don't deserve to be here, Rebecca said bluntly. Look, I don't know what happened in that meeting, and I don't need to. But I've been here 10 years, and I've seen plenty of people get opportunities they haven't earned. Most of them crash and burn. If you're the real deal, you'll prove it. If not, well, people are already watching. The word stung, but Maya appreciated the honesty. I'll prove it, she said quietly. Rebecca studied her for a long moment, then nodded. We'll see. Come on, I'll show you how we organize the project files. The afternoon was intense. Rebecca wasn't joking about keeping her head down and working hard. She dumped what felt like a mountain of information on Maya, explaining filing systems, communication protocols, and the particular preferences of various executives. Maya took notes frantically, determined not to forget a single detail. Around 4 in the afternoon, Alexander walked past her desk on his way to a meeting. He paused briefly. How's it going? Maya was acutely aware of Rebecca and several other assistants watching the interaction. Learning a lot, sir, she said, keeping her tone professional. Something flickered in his eyes. Amusement maybe at the formal address, but he just nodded and continued on his way. The moment he was out of earshot, another assistant, a young guy named Tyler, rolled his chair over. So what's the deal? How do you know Mr. Henderson? I don't, Maya said, not looking up from her computer screen. I met him for the first time today. Come on, there's got to be more to it than that. Nobody gets pulled into his office on day one unless there's a connection. Maya finally looked at him, keeping her expression neutral. There's nothing to tell. Now, if you don't mind, Rebecca gave me a lot to get through. Tyler shrugged and rolled back to his desk, but Maya could feel the speculation hanging in the air. This was going to be harder than she thought. By the time 5:30 rolled around, Maya was exhausted. Her brain felt like it was going to explode from all the new information. She gathered her things and headed for the elevator, relieved that her first day was almost over. She was halfway across the lobby when she heard her name. She turned to find Alexander walking toward her, his suit jacket slung over one arm. "Heading home?" he asked. "Yes, sir. I need to pick up my daughter." He smiled slightly at the formal address. "Maya, you can call me Alexander. At least when we're not in front of the entire office." She hesitated. "People are already talking. I don't want to give them more reason to think I'm getting special treatment." "Let them talk," he said, but his expression softened. "Though I understand your concern." "How was your first day, really?" "Overwhelming," Maya admitted. "But good. Rebecca is tough, but I think that's what I need. Rebecca is excellent at her job. She'll push you, but she'll also teach you everything you need to know." He paused. "I wanted to thank you, actually." Maya blinked. "Thank me? For what?" "For calling me out earlier. For not just taking what I offered without question. It reminded me why I wanted to build this company in the first place. To create opportunities for people who actually deserve them, not just people who know how to play the game." Before Maya could respond, a woman's voice cut through the lobby. "Alex, there you are." Maya turned to see a striking woman in her late 30s striding toward them. She was wearing an expensive designer suit, her dark hair pulled back in a sleek bun, and everything about her screamed confidence and power. Alexander's expression shifted into something more guarded. "Victoria, I thought our meeting was tomorrow." "It is, but I was in the building and thought I'd catch you." Victoria's eyes slid to Maya, taking in her thrift store dress and worn shoes in one sweeping glance. "I didn't realize you had company." "This is Maya, one of our new team members," Alexander said. "Maya, this is Victoria Chambers, our chief financial officer." Victoria extended a perfectly manicured hand, and Maya shook it, feeling suddenly very conscious of her own chipped nail polish. "How lovely. Welcome to Henderson Global." The words were warm, but something in Victoria's eyes was cold, calculating. "Thank you," Maya said. "Maya started today," Alexander added. "She'll be working with the executive team on several projects." Victoria's smile didn't waver, but something flickered in her expression. "How wonderful. It's always exciting to see fresh talent." She turned her attention fully to Alexander. "Alex, about tomorrow's meeting, I really think we should discuss the Morrison account beforehand. Perhaps over dinner tonight." Maya felt like she was intruding on something. "I should go," she said quickly. "I don't want to be late picking up Lily. It was nice meeting you, Ms. Chambers." "Victoria, please," the CFO said smoothly. "We're all family here at Henderson Global." Maya nodded and hurried toward the exit, but not before she caught the way Victoria stepped slightly closer to Alexander, her hand resting briefly on his arm. The gesture was casual, familiar, and it made something twist uncomfortably in Maya's chest, which was ridiculous. Alexander Henderson was her boss, her CEO. The fact that he'd been kind to her this morning didn't mean anything. Men like him didn't end up with single mothers from struggling neighborhoods. They ended up with women like Victoria Chambers, polished and powerful and perfect. Maya pushed through the revolving doors and out into the evening air. She had a bus to catch and a daughter to pick up and a mountain of work to prepare for tomorrow. She didn't have time to think about her handsome CEO or the way his smile had made her feel this morning. She had a job to do, and she was going to prove to everyone, including herself, that she deserved to be there. But as the bus pulled away from the curb and she watched the Henderson Global building disappear in the distance, she couldn't quite shake the memory of Alexander's gray-blue eyes looking at her, like she actually mattered, or the sinking feeling that Victoria Chambers was going to be a problem. The alarm clock screamed at 5:30 in the morning, and Maya's hand shot out from under the thin blanket to silence it. She hadn't really been sleeping anyway. Her mind had been running in circles all night thinking about today. First day at the new job. First day at Henderson Global Industries. First day that could change everything for her and Lily. She dragged herself out of bed and padded quietly to the small second bedroom where her daughter was still asleep. curled up with that stuffed rabbit that had seen better days. Lily was 5 years old now, and Maya couldn't believe how fast time was flying. It felt like yesterday she was holding a newborn, scared out of her mind, wondering how she'd manage alone. But she had managed. Barely, but she had. Maya pressed a soft kiss to Lily's forehead and whispered that Mrs. Chen from next door would be there soon to take her to kindergarten. The little girl mumbled something in her sleep and rolled over. Maya smiled despite the knot of anxiety in her stomach. In the bathroom, she splashed cold water on her face and stared at her reflection. Dark circles under her eyes, hair that desperately needed a proper cut. Not the kitchen scissors trim she'd given herself last month. But today she'd put on her best outfit, the navy blue dress she'd found at the thrift store. It looked professional enough if you didn't look too close at the slightly frayed hem. She could do this. She had to do this. The job at Henderson Global was like winning the lottery, administrative assistant at one of the biggest companies in the city, with a salary that would actually let her breathe for the first time in years. No more juggling 3 part-time gigs. No more choosing between keeping the heat on or buying groceries. This was the break she'd been praying for. By 6 in the morning, Mrs. Chen had arrived, bless her heart, and Maya was heading down the worn stairs of their apartment building. She'd already called for an Uber, which was eating into her carefully managed budget, but the bus route would take an hour and a half. She couldn't be late. Not today. As she stepped outside into the cool morning air, her phone buzzed. She looked down at the screen and her heart sank. The Uber driver had canceled. She frantically opened the app again, her fingers shaking slightly as she requested another ride. The little car icon on the map seemed to take forever to appear. Then she saw it. A sleek black Mercedes was parked right in front of her building, engine running softly. The license plate matched what was on her phone. Thank God. She yanked open the back door and practically threw herself inside. I'm so sorry, she babbled, pulling the door shut. I know I'm running late. I have this really important thing today, and I can't be late, and traffic is probably terrible already. And she finally looked up and stopped mid-sentence. The man in the driver's seat wasn't what she expected. For one thing, he was sitting in the driver's seat of what was clearly an expensive car. But he didn't look like any Uber driver she'd ever had. He was wearing a crisp white button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up. And even from the back seat, she could tell everything about him screamed money. His watch alone probably cost more than her rent. But he was looking at her in the rearview mirror with an amused expression, and she was too frazzled to think straight. Henderson Global Industries. Downtown, she said quickly, clicking her seatbelt. The main building on 5th Avenue. Do you know it? There was a pause, and she saw something flicker across his face. Then he simply said, I know exactly where it is. He pulled smoothly into traffic, and Maya let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. She pulled out her phone and started scrolling through the email she'd received yesterday with all the first day instructions, building entry procedures, who to ask for at reception, what documents to bring. Her mind was racing. Big day? The driver asked, and his voice was deeper than she expected, cultured and smooth. You have no idea, Maya said, not really paying attention. First day at a new job. Well, not just any job. This is like the job, the one that's going to change things. That's exciting, he said, and he actually sounded interested, not just making small talk. What kind of work? Administrative assistant, Maya said, finally looking up from her phone. She caught his eyes in the mirror again. They were a striking gray-blue, and there was something about the way he looked at her that made her feel like he was actually listening. I know it doesn't sound like much, but for me it's everything. The salary is more than I've ever made. I'll actually be able to afford things. Real things. My daughter needs new shoes, and her winter coat from last year doesn't fit anymore, and she stopped herself. Why was she telling her life story to an Uber driver? Sorry, she said, embarrassed. You don't need to hear all that. I don't mind, he said, and something in his tone made her believe him. Your daughter, how old is she? 5, her name's Lily. She's the reason I'm doing all this. Maya found herself relaxing slightly despite her nerves. There was something calming about this stranger. I'm a single mom, and it's been tough, you know? Really tough. But this job, it's with Henderson Global Industries. Have you heard of them? She saw the corner of his mouth twitch. Once or twice. They're huge, Maya continued, warming to the subject. I mean, I'll probably just be getting coffee and filing papers, but I don't care. It's stable. It has benefits. Real health insurance, can you believe that? I haven't had health insurance in 3 years. They were moving through traffic now, the city slowly waking up around them. Maya watched the buildings get taller and shinier as they headed downtown. You seem nervous, the driver observed. Terrified, Maya admitted with a shaky laugh. What if I mess up? What if they realize they made a mistake hiring me? I barely finished community college. Everyone else there probably has fancy degrees from universities I can't even pronounce. I doubt they made a mistake, he said firmly. They hired you for a reason. Trust that. Maya felt an unexpected warmth at his words. Thanks. That's really nice of you to say. I mean it, he said, glancing at her in the mirror again. Sometimes the people with the most impressive credentials are the ones who've never had to actually fight for anything. Real determination, real work ethic that comes from somewhere else. She studied him curiously. You sound like you know what you're talking about. Let's just say I've learned a few things about people over the years, he said with a slight smile. They were getting close now, and Maya could feel her anxiety ramping up again. She pulled down the sun visor and checked her reflection in the small mirror, trying to smooth her hair. You look fine, the driver said quietly. More than fine. You look like someone who's earned her shot. Maya felt her eyes prickle with unexpected tears. She blinked them back quickly. Sorry, I'm being ridiculous. I just really need this to work out. It will, he said with a certainty that made her want to believe him. As they pulled up in front of the massive glass and steel building that housed Henderson Global Industries, Maya felt her breath catch. The building was even more impressive in person than it had looked in photos. Sleek, modern, reaching up toward the sky like it owned it. She fumbled for her wallet, pulling out a $20 bill. It was literally the last cash she had until payday, but she'd budgeted for this ride. How much do I owe you? She asked. The driver waved his hand dismissively. Don't worry about it. Consider it a good luck gesture. No, please, I can pay, Maya insisted, holding out the 20. He turned slightly in his seat to look at her directly for the first time, and Maya felt her breath catch again. He was younger than she'd thought, maybe mid-30s, with dark hair that was slightly tousled and strong features. There was something about his presence that was almost overwhelming. Keep it, he said gently. Buy your daughter those new shoes. And Maya? She froze. How did you know my name? He gestured toward her phone, which was still displaying the Uber app with her name clearly visible. It's on the screen. Oh, right, she felt foolish. Of course. You're going to do great today, he said with absolute conviction. Trust yourself. You've got this. Maya nodded, clutching her purse and her folder of documents. Thank you. Really. You have no idea how much I needed to hear that. She climbed out of the car and stood on the sidewalk, watching as the Mercedes pulled away smoothly into traffic. For just a moment, she wondered about him. There was something different about that interaction, something she couldn't quite put her finger on. But she didn't have time to dwell on it. She had a job to start. Maya took a deep breath, squared her shoulders, and walked toward the gleaming entrance of Henderson Global Industries. The security guard checked her ID, gave her a temporary badge, and directed her to the 15th floor where all new employee orientations were held. The elevator ride up felt like it took forever and no time at all. When the doors opened, she stepped out into a sleek reception area where several other people were already waiting, all looking just as nervous as she felt. A friendly woman with a clipboard checked her name off a list and handed her a welcome packet. Orientation starts in 10 minutes in Conference Room B. Coffee and pastries are available if you'd like anything. Maya accepted the packet and found a seat, her heart still hammering. She looked at the other new hires around her. They all looked so put together, so confident. One woman was wearing a designer suit that probably cost more than Maya's rent. A young man was typing rapidly on a laptop that looked fresh out of the box. She swallowed hard and reminded herself of what the driver had said. They hired you for a reason. Trust that. The orientation began right on time. They went through the standard procedures. Employee handbook, building security, benefits enrollment. Maya tried to absorb every word, taking notes frantically. This was her chance. She couldn't blow it. About an hour in, the HR manager, a polished woman named Patricia, stood at the front of the room with an excited smile. Now for the part you've all been waiting for. We're going to head up to the executive floor where you'll have the opportunity to meet some of our leadership team and hear directly from our CEO, Alexander Henderson himself. A ripple of excitement went through the room. Maya felt her palms start to sweat. The CEO. The actual CEO was going to speak to them. They were herded into an elevator that shot up to the top floors. When the doors opened, Maya nearly gasped. If the 15th floor was nice, this was another level entirely. Floor-to-ceiling windows offering views of the entire city. Modern art on the walls. Everything gleaming and perfect. They were led into a large conference room with a massive table and comfortable leather chairs. Maya took a seat toward the back, trying to make herself small and unnoticeable. Patricia stood at the front, checking her watch. Mr. Henderson should be here any moment. He likes to personally welcome all our new team members. The door opened and Maya's world tilted sideways. Walking into the room, now wearing a suit jacket over that white button-down shirt, looking every inch the powerful executive, was the driver from the Mercedes. Her Uber driver, except he very clearly wasn't an Uber driver at all. His eyes scanned the room and landed directly on her. For a brief moment, something flickered across his face. Amusement maybe, or recognition, before his expression settled into a professional smile. "Good morning, everyone," he said, his voice carrying easily through the room. "I'm Alexander Henderson, and welcome to Henderson Global Industries." Maya felt like she was going to be sick. Or faint. Or possibly both. She'd spilled her entire life story to her new boss, her CEO. She'd tried to pay him $20. She'd babbled about not being able to afford health insurance and her daughter's shoes and how terrified she was of messing up. She wanted the floor to open up and swallow her. Whole Alexander was talking about company values and vision and growth opportunities, but Maya couldn't focus on the words. Her mind was reeling. Had he known who she was the whole time? Had he been laughing at her? Testing her somehow? She tried to make herself invisible in her chair, hoping desperately that he wouldn't call her out or mention their earlier encounter in front of everyone. The meeting seemed to last forever. Alexander spoke well, she could tell that much through her panic. He was charismatic and genuine, talking about the company like it actually mattered to him, not just as a money-making machine. Under different circumstances, she might have been impressed. Finally, mercifully, the meeting concluded. Everyone began filing out, chattering excitedly about having met the CEO. Maya tried to disappear into the crowd, keeping her head down. "Excuse me, Maya?" She froze. It was Patricia, the HR manager, standing right beside her. "Yes?" Maya's voice came out as barely a whisper. "Mr. Henderson would like to see you in his office, please." Every eye in the room turned toward her. She could feel the weight of their stares. The speculation already beginning. Why would the CEO want to see a brand new administrative assistant on her first day? Maya's legs felt like jelly as she followed Patricia down a hallway to a set of imposing double doors. Patricia knocked once, then opened the door and gestured for Maya to enter. "I'll be right outside if you need anything," Patricia said, though Maya wasn't sure if that was reassuring or terrifying. Maya stepped into the office and heard the door close softly behind her. Alexander was standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows, his back to her, hands in his pockets. She waited, her heart pounding so hard she was sure he